Hello, this is Bob Brooks, host of the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you listening to the podcast. As you know, we do podcast our Prudent Money Radio Show programs, and obviously, 3 o'clock isn't always easy for some people to listen live. So you can always listen to the podcast, and that is posted throughout the week and there for your convenience. And we post it at every major platform, so it's easy. You can go to wherever you like to consume the information that you get from podcasts and get that taken care of. I've been talking a whole lot about getting laid off, and I think we're in that part of the cycle. And what's probably the most disturbing one is where a person is just 2 to 3 years or so away from retirement. And all they need to do is just work 2 or 3 more years and they're in great shape, and they get laid off, at 65 when they were planning on working to 68. There's definitely a method that you have to go through and that you have to apply, and a process you have to apply to go through. And, think of it as a tornado ripping through your town, and then you get out and you access the damage, and you put a plan together. The same thing with losing a job. You didn't have a plan to begin with, so it's an opportunity to start a new plan with where you are, what you have, and what prospects are in front of you, or take the plan that you have and rebuild it and get it to where it's on track for another set of goals. And your goals are always they're always driven by your values, so it's a great process. And if you need me to take you through that process, just make sure you go to info@prudentmoney.com. If you see some family members struggling with being laid off, this is such a great process to go through. And it's a process, and it'll help you be a better decision maker, and making decisions is critical at this point. So if you want more information, you need to talk to me about it. Happy to help. That's what we're here for. Info@prudentmoney.com is where you go, or go bob@prudentmoney.com. Well, I hope everybody enjoys the podcast. Well, one of the top tips for retirement success. Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. Good afternoon and welcome to the Prudent Money Radio Show. I'm your host, Bob Brooks. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Well, if you got a question for me, please go to the website, www.prudentmoney.com. Send it in and I'll get it taken care of for you. That's off the website, www.prudentmoney.com. And if it requires more than just a simple email back and forth, you can always go to the calendar, find some time, and put your name down, and we'll get you squared away. Confirm it, and have a conversation at some point there during the week. That's off the website, www.prudentmoney.com. So I've been having quite a few conversations lately about getting laid off, losing your job. The most unfortunate ones are the ones that affect people later on in life. And, I hate these stories because it's just so close. They're going to retire at 67, and at 64, they get laid off. After serving in the company for so many years, they get a little severance, get to access their pension, but not much. It's kind of thank you for nothing. And always, those are the most unfortunate ones. But you're on track. Now, you put the formula in motion. You're on track for retirement. You know that you look at the numbers, as I'll talk about in the webinar tomorrow. It's only math, and you look at it and you see that you are on your way to securing a good retirement. Then change happens, throws you off course, and makes you have to contemplate a lot of different things. But that change obviously could be, and I think we're going to see a lot of this, is job loss. It could be that you have an unexpected medical issue. Those are never any fun. It sets you back in a lot of different ways. a large expenditure of any kind. You know, those types of expenditures that you kind of have in the back of your head, but hope just never present themselves. Then they present themselves, and then you're stuck. Maybe it's a wedding for a child. Maybe it's graduate school, unexpected, that you feel led. You've prayed about it. You agree with your child that graduate school would be a great way would be a great next step, and you feel very much at peace about it. Except how are you going to pay for it, because you weren't expecting it? Of course, that brings out a whole other lot of different issues. But the bottom line is you're on track, and change happens. Now, you know, there's all kinds, as we've talked about here, there's all kinds of change that could happen, obviously. But we're talking about the kind of change that throws you really off course. And one of the biggest problems that I see with most people, and we've talked about financial literacy for a long time, about how important it is, how important financial education is in the schools, and it's not happening, and you kind of learn things on the fly. But nobody teaches you how to deal with change. A good example is you're in a bull market that is defying the odds. That would be this bull market that we're in right now, a market that goes up. You're making all kinds of money. You fall into the disillusionment that this could go on for a very long time. Maybe it could, maybe it can't. Maybe that's not fair. I don't think it will, but maybe it can. And you know, bear markets, when they come along, that's a situation where you're in a risk level where you could lose a lot of money. For instance, the last big bear market that we had, 2007 to 2009, top to bottom, the stock market lost over 50%. And that's pretty much what happens. And pop culture finance, which we talk about quite a bit on the program, pop culture finance makes up the financial media, the financial advisor community. They just tell you you're a long-term investor, write it out. But that is a massive change, a massive risk to take on, and there could be better options for you than to just write it out. But you know, and you already sense you are behind, officially behind. So what do you do? Well, I think doing nothing is not the answer. But it's one of those things where decision making is a part of the retirement planning process. It's a part of the investing process. It's a part of what we have as stewards of over what God has given us. We're going to have to make decisions. What I see is most people avoid making decisions as long as they can, because there's always that nagging feeling, am I going to be right? Am I going to be wrong? More of a nagging feeling, am I going to be wrong? And so they don't make the decision at all, which is pretty much making a decision, and then they get sucked into that bear market. And then once it goes down 35%, everybody's telling them, oh, the bottom's almost here. Just play, stick it out, and stay put. Don't move your money. And it ends up being a bad decision. And then you are in a situation where you're way off course. So what do you do now? And that's where flexibility with your future really comes into play. And that's part of the formula. We'll be talking about that. And I often get asked, is flexibility more important than risk management or planning? And what you'll learn tomorrow at the webinar is that it's all equal. They're all equal. You can't have one without the other. There's 4 keys to unlocking retirement goals, and those 4 keys are all equally as important. So The flexibility aspect of it, though, I think is a really cool concept to learn, because it means, okay, now I've got to make decisions, and it may be that you've dropped, your account has dropped along with the market, and it's been going for a long time, maybe almost 2 years. That's about the average of a drop. It may be that you've ridden it out unknowingly, and that the probabilities would say that it's close. The bottom is close, and it's going to turn around. So there's so many things to consider, and this is why you want to have a financial advisor to help you with this decision making and really walk through the pros and cons of the decisions that you have to make, versus just some phrase that you're going to see knitted on a pillow. Just write it out. You're a long-term investor. That doesn't really pay my bills. So you're looking at this, you're far behind, and you have to start to determine, what's this going to do to your plan of getting to retirement. Say that your original plan was 67, and at age 67 you were going to retire. Right now it says you can't do that. Well, why don't you revisit that in about 3 more months and keep revisiting it until you feel like that maybe I need to be making changes. Maybe I need to change. Well, at the point that I make everything back that I lost, how does retirement look at that point? There's just a lot of decision makings, but you got to have the flexibility, because it may be that instead of at 67 you're going to retire, maybe now you're going to retire at age 70, and there's some advantages with that. At age 70 you have Social Security that's a much bigger number. You have 3 or 4 more years of saving that you can do, and investing that you can do, an accumulation of assets. It may be that you could have your debt paid off by the time you retire. There's so many things that you can, but it's all about being flexible and changing the path that you've been on, changing up your goals. See, when it all comes right down to it, I think it's important that you have a set of goals. You got a path that you are following that you can be flexible with. And if someone were to come up to you and say, well, tell me this, Bob, why are you investing 15% a year into your 401k plan? Why do you have it invested the way that you have it invested? If someone was to actually ask us that, we'd probably say, well, it's for retirement. But what I want you to say after attending this webinar tomorrow is, I plan on retiring at age 67, because you've already worked these numbers and you know you can, and I'm going to save X amount of dollars, and I'm going to accumulate this amount of dollars, and I'm going to grow it at this amount each on an average this year. I'm going to take this much risk, and I'm going to accumulate this amount of money, and then from there, I'm going to be able to take out, $6,000 a month, and I'm going to be able to do that for 20 years, and that's going to take care of my retirement. You want to be able to be that specific as to what you're trying to accomplish. And I'll tell you, I've seen this a number of times. Being that specific really does help you achieve your goals. Hey, this is Bob Brooks. We are up against a break. Stick around, and I'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thanks so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Listen, as we've been talking about the webinar, tomorrow at 12 noon, 30 minutes, and I'm also going to give a special presentation after that on what to expect with inflation because it is rearing its ugly head again, something you want to be aware of. If you can't stay for that, I totally understand, but I'll stay and answer questions and do whatever I need to do to make sure that you have a good understanding of what we're talking about. So that is your time, and do with it as you wish. All you have to do is go sign up for it. We'll send you a link. It's that easy, all at prudentmoney.com. Now, we were talking about the scenario, the ideal scenario we're going to talk about tomorrow, where you're on track and you are in a good spot. You're making money, you're earning money on your retirement, you're on track, you know you're on track, which we're going to talk about that a lot. And the unexpected, such as a bear market, happens, throws you off track. What do you do? Well, what about an expected expense, but you just really haven't saved for it, or you haven't prepared for it? And I'll give a very good example, and that would be a wedding. Your daughter's getting married. You know it's going to cost X amount of dollars. You know that you can come up with $30,000. Maybe you have to borrow it. Maybe you have to sell some investments, take away from your retirement. One of the things I wanted to point out is that some advisors will make you feel guilty for doing that, or question why would you want to do that. Retirement is just one goal in life. Kids are another goal in life. Values, what's important to you, is the most important aspect of life. What you value. And if you value adjusting your retirement, adjusting the number of years that you're going to be retired, adjusting your beginning date, maybe the amount of it you're going to take out, whatever it might be, to make that work again. The thing is, once you adjust the numbers at the end, all the numbers will change all the way up until now, and it will show, hey, I'm back on track, and I've paid for my daughter's wedding. And it's just one of those things where some people will tell you, oh, that's the craziest thing. Just let them figure it out. Let them borrow the money. It was most important, and I can't stress this enough, is your values, what's most important to you. And people can have opinions. An old saying that I think Wayne Dyer said this one time: be appreciative of the good opinions of others, or something like that. In other words, hey, that's your opinion. I appreciate it. I'm running on my value system, and that to me is the most important thing to do. So flexibility is extremely important, and it's something that is not taught, something that is not spoken about enough on formats like radio shows and educational resources and that type of thing. But just because something unexpected comes up, or expected but you've been putting it off, does not mean that all of a sudden you are not going to retire. It just means you got to change things, and you got to realign your values to meet those changes. Hey, this is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Hey, if you didn't know, we take every program and do a podcast and post it, and you can always go to prudentmoney.com, listen to it, listen to the day's shows, or you can go to wherever you like to listen to your favorite podcasts, and hope that Prudent Money is one of them. And I believe we're on every just about major platform that you can be on. So go check it out, and you can get information that way as well. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. I know we're bringing this up a lot, but I just want to make sure that you are aware of the educational opportunities tomorrow. 30 minutes, 12 to 12:30, is going to be a webinar talking about reaching your retirement goals in a complicated and changing world. And ladies and gentlemen, I had Chuck Bentley on yesterday, CEO of Crown Financial Ministries. What a blessing it is to have him on the program. If you didn't hear that program, please go back and listen to it on podcast. It's already up and on the platform. But I hadn't talked to him since maybe September of last year. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was thinking, wow, the world has really changed since that time. I mean, drastically changed since September of last year. There's a lot of change. There's a lot of things being introduced that are going to bring about change. I mean, artificial intelligence is one of them. The digital dollar is one of them, and a lot of these changes, along with them come fear and mixed emotions and different type of an investment landscape that really is a little bit more risky than what we're dealing with today. So there's a lot to consider. It's a complicated world. Now, put all that drama aside. The math is the math. And that's where I want to focus you on. I want to focus you on a plan that you can conquer, a plan that you can achieve. And it is simple, basic math. Do not fall into the illusion that you cannot do it, because you can. And we're gonna be doing that tomorrow. Just go sign up at the website, prudentmoney.com, and I will look forward to you being there. So let's talk about some other things that come up. You know, it's interesting. When something like a layoff happens, and that's obviously one of the most unexpected things that can happen. Well, probably not one of the most, but it's up there, right? You get laid off, and you got to look at, and you got to consider everything. So where do you start? And it's about, it's almost kind of like the unexpected arrival of a tornado. And the tornado rips through your town, causes massive destruction, changes all your plans, changes all your changes your goals. And boy, you talk about flexibility at that point. So what's the first thing that you do is you get out and you assess the damage. And you determine what steps do I need to take today, and what do I need to do first, second, third, and really I call it gathering information. One of the very first things that I tell people to do is start to figure out what can you get by on, you and your family, that you can cut expenses. Where can you cut expenses? What can you cut out? What can you reduce until you get reemployed? And that's a very, very important place to start. And that's taking an inventory of everything that you have. It's talking about checking into how much you're going to earn when it comes to unemployment benefits. And always remember, unemployment benefits are taxed like income. I had an interesting question come up I guess it was yesterday. If this individual was at the age, was about to start taking Social Security, but they were still going to work for a couple of years, can they take unemployment benefits and Social Security at the same time? Absolutely, you can. You can take both at the same time. Having said that, that is a general answer. There may be some slight nuances at the state level. So you always want to call your state office on unemployment benefits and ask and verify. But generally speaking, for most states, you can take both. There is, however, taxes that you have to consider and depending on your age and that kind of thing. But these are the numbers that you want to get, and these are the numbers that are important to look at and say, okay, we need $4,000, $5,000 a month. Between this, and this, we are at $6,000 or $5,000 or $5,500. We're there. We can make this work, and we can make this work for 8 months. And so once you start to see, okay, 8 months of I call it shelf life. And then we start to have a problem. Well, in about the 6th month, if you haven't gotten a job yet, you should probably start considering a part-time job and looking at some different options and making some more changes in your plan. But as far as your retirement plan goes, you'll have to do some adjustments, and you'll have to determine what makes the most sense. Talking about Social Security, someone I was talking to the other day about this is that she was planning on taking it at age 65. She was 63. It might make sense to take it at 64. Now, it's going to be 8% below what it would be at 65, but it still might make sense. It just depends on your situation and the makeup of what you have to, that you can satisfy gaps in your plan. It's the gaps that become a problem, and it's about fixing those gaps. Fortunately, if you're at age 65 and you get laid off, you have Medicare, you have health insurance in place through the federal government. But once again, go to prudentmoney.com, sign up for the webinar. We'll be presenting that webinar at 12 noon. We'll get out 12:30. Then I'm going to do an inflation presentation for those who want to stick around and watch that. And I'll take as many questions as need be. So go to prudentmoney.com, sign up for it, and we'll get you taken care of. Hey, this is Bob Brooks. If you have a question for me, please go to the website, www.prudentmoney.com, and send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time. Keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.